Welcome back, everyone, to Pillars of Eternity.
All right, then.
We're here with Rand Lefebvre, otherwise known as DraxxKraven. When we're looking for the Leaden Key's secret person. Oh. Wardrobe slab. Press a large weathered trunk. I'm not gonna fuck with it. Yo, man, what's up? An Animancer scribbles feverishly on a parchment scroll while his free hand dances through the air, counting off unseen objects. His lip move in silent discourse. As your shadow falls over his scroll, he looks up at you with mingled perplexity and irritation.
Welcome.
Can I help you? He forces a polite smile. Has anything unusual been happening around here? You must be joking. This is the Sanitarium. Nothing is usual down here. Although, now that I think about it, the patient seems more agitated lately, but they're Cadman Azo's responsibility, not mine. Then if there's nothing else, just looking around, then be quick about it and don't touch anything. The Sanitarium has the lax visitor policy, but I do not. The man who waits. Ooh.
I suppose it can't be
There you
helped.
go.
Hey man, this stuff's free for the taking. Northward patient record, the Pale Lady, Graham, the Midnight Man, and Uskrim. Subject is female, mid-40s, awakened to a past life as a serial murderer, which now frequently emerges as the soul's dominant personality. Subject vacillates between violence and severe depression, resulting from guilt of past deeds. Weak candidate for present research. Graham. Subject is male, approximately early 30s. Powers of speech absent, presumably as a result of the overfragmentation of his spirit. As such, he is the ideal subject for present research. However, experimentation has caused severe pain and induced panic, and I have had to enlist the aid of the guards in transporting him for more recent procedures. The Midnight Man. Subject is male, mid-20s. Displays acute dissociation and paranoid delusional tendencies, causing anger and extreme violence. Dangers of working with subject preclude possibility of further use in present research. And Uskrim. Male, approximately 17 years of age, admitted for episodes of catatonia followed by occasional violent outbursts. Initial analysis of soul revealed severe fragmentation and essence deficiency. Whatever that means. Said deficiency all but eliminates the possibility of utilizing subject in present research. Okay. I'll take all that. The Man Who Waits. Note from Azo. Ripley, I require more copper tubing for my next experiment. Do not requisition it from the sanitarium stores. I don't have time to deal with the head warden's inevitable questions. Ooh.
Hello.
Oh my, you startled me. Are you supposed to be in here? What do you do? I mostly help Master Azo set up and clean his equipment. I also keep his office organized since he's too busy to do it himself. Okay. So I can ask about Belisich, but that doesn't help me with the Man Who Waits. Yo, give me a key. My area of focus is wits. More specifically, how to cure them. Wits? A Hollowborn who received a transplanted animal soul during infancy. One of the Animancy's early efforts to cure the legacy, if not a successful one. They show signs of developmental abnormalities throughout their childhood, but when they reach adolescence, they become aggressive, feral, but still victims in need of a cure. Transplanting animal souls into children seems like an odd solution. We, Animancers, were trying to do something about the crisis, better than letting it swallow a generation of children. And despite the controversy, it only went so far because at first it seemed to work. People called it the salvation. Children that had never been responsive to any kind of stimuli suddenly seemed aware of the surroundings of their families. The complications don't begin until puberty, but that's when the incompatibilities between body and soul take shape. Children become violent, ravenous, but we paid dearly for our mistake. I promise you, angry mobs hunted down Animancers and burned down their homes, with them still inside, often as not. Why do you study them? People took to calling it the cruel salvation, and many still loathe us for it, but we wanted to stop the legacy as much as anyone. The public begged for our help, and we did the best we could. I still don't know if that absolves us. Why do you study them? What kind of question is that? Just thinking of the families that could be healed, the lives that could be restored. What would be more important? Animancy has an answer here. I know it. It's simply a matter of working it out. I see. Okay. The lack of dust on the trunk's surface and long scratches on the tile floor suggest that the trunk is frequently used and moved throughout the laboratory despite its considerable size. A heavy lock holds the trunk shut. It's too sturdy to break, and the mechanism looks too complicated to pick. You'll need to find the key. Okay, no. That's of no use to me. Or is there something on his desk, maybe? The canine host was listless and unresponsive, but it was determined that his was simply the implanted feline soul. Yarn resulted in vigorous stimulation.
Hail, traveler.
Oh, that's so good. I never thought I'd be taking orders from a talking statue. Maybe Belisage can give me some. Maybe there's an answer somewhere upstairs. But say, if they don't want the headmaster to know about the copper tubing, maybe I should tell them about it. Welcome. I found records that Azo may be running some questionable experiments. Experiments? Caedmon Azo is in charge of patient welfare now. He's not authorized to run any more experiments. I am disappointed in Caedmon. I had hoped he would be on the one to guide your inquiry. He'll be in his office or in the patient wards. I am granting you immediate access so that you can find him. No doubt you will wish to speak to him further on this matter, and I, for one, am curious as to what he might have to say. Tread carefully in the wards. There are a few dangerous cases. I would ask also that you do your best not to agitate the patients. They have enough troubles as it is. Dear God, what the fuck? Sorry, I opened a portal to Lag Force there. So, yeah. It seems like Animancy is a field of study like any other. And there will be those who abuse their position and those who do not. Flesh construct. Frail. You must be visiting someone. A friendly visit, I hope. Do you have any patients here who've been acting unusually? Well, there's Batixia, who relives a murder she committed more than 5 lifetimes ago. Idleman, who they say only has half a soul, and was found collecting the faces of others because he believed his own to be a false one. Graham, he speaks in a language no one understands and wails at night sometimes. Different from the normal behavior, I mean. Well, yes, I suppose. But nothing they didn't volunteer for. Master Azo let us know that a number of patients in the North Ward had volunteered for a new therapy and would be escorted to his laboratory to receive treatment. The North Ward has our most troubled cases. I'm glad some of them have chosen to get help. It seems to me it's gotten quieter over there since I started. It's Graham I see them talking in the most. He struggles, but he's always was a bit of a wild one. Do you know where I might find Azo? I think I've seen him around today. Have you checked the lab? It shares a wall with his office. He's been spending most of the time there recently. Do you know about him? Oh, I like him very much. Many animancers could care less about their patients. Look at us like vermin for their experiments, but Master Azo treats us like humans, even the very sick. You can tell he does this to help people. He's helped me understand a great deal about myself, and I know he's done the same for others. It's too bad what they did to him. He hides it well, but I know he's still affected by it. What happened to him? They don't like to talk about it, but there was an accident. He was said to be one of the brightest in the Dyrwood, that his reputation here was what brought him to seek treatment. People say it was ego that drove him to try and solve the legacy, but that's hogwash. Even if he was a bit of a showman, he loves his homeland. He thought he could help. He wasn't one to speak of his work, suspected his colleagues might have tried to steal it, but he told me once that he figured one way to create a soul. Not a soul exactly, mind you. How did he put it? A proxy, I think he called it. Had some machine that drew energy out of the very ether. Can you imagine? The point is, it was going to help with the legacy. It was going to make Hollowborn into something easier to love and care for. Gods, no, that's something we need. Do you know what they call those empty little babies in Ondra's gift? No, tell me. They call them buoys, because so many of them are found floating face down in the water. These are mad times. Anyway, Master Azo has scheduled a public demonstration of his work in Copper Lane. He was so excited. And then the next day, he was locked in his office, turning away visitors. I heard he stopped seeing patients, but I don't know exactly what happened. I don't have the heart to ask, but I'm glad they're letting him treat people again. Would I be able to visit the North Ward? They like to keep them separate. I don't know that I've ever seen the guards allow a visitor, just Master Azo. You might ask him. He's very sympathetic. Why are you here? I don't want to say. You'll think less of me. You can tell me. I'm going crazy too. I wouldn't worry about that. These last few years haven't been kind to me. They haven't been kind to anyone, really. I try not to think of it as personal. I lost my husband and both my boys in the Saints' War. My daughter, the legacy, took her before she was even mine. I made do. What else can you do? I moved into a tiny place in Ondra's gift. Got by mending clothes and on the kindness of strangers when I had to, but I was surviving, and the gods were watching over me. I could live with that. Then one day, this noblewoman comes in, wants this fancy gown fixed. Gorgeous thing. This shade of blue I'd never seen before. Only I had. I looked at it and it reminded me of something. I had what they call an awakening. I remembered being a noblewoman myself in another life. People doting over me. Men doting over me. Me. The best food. The most beautiful home. All the things you'd never dare dream of. They were mine. It was poison knowing that. All those things I had that I'll never have in this life. It did something to me. My food started to taste rotten. The walls in my little room seemed to close in around me. I stopped being able to sleep in my own bed. So I came here. It was that or break into an estate and start ordering servants around. It seems like such a silly thing to worry about. You don't have to tell me. I can't get past it, and I start to wonder, did the gods choose this life for me? And if so, what terrible thing must I have done to deserve it? Nobody deserves to go through what you've gone through. I hope not. I can't even imagine the monster who deserves what half the patients here go through every day. Interesting. Just left a chicken in a barrel. Okay, so that's gonna be his lab. Okay, so the flesh constructs aren't much for talking. Okay, so it seems like the North Ward is reserved for the worst of the worst. The most deadly and dastardly. Whereas everyone else is just... They got problems, man. Yes.
Hope that helps.
Ravenwing, the one-handed mace. Baby Jesus. Give me that inventory. Yeah. Accuracy versus deflection. DR reduction, coordinating, damage 3, converts graze into hit speed, burning lash exceptional. Great weapon! No use to me here and now.
Not sure how I feel about this. There you go.
Blithe Golan. Oh yeah. Give me that. Wow.
Hey.
Nearly the same type of armor. Yo, Cademan. Something churns and bubbles. Something churns and bubbles. Okay. Getting real Arenicus vibes from this dude. A round-faced, balding man turns to face you. His upper lip is pulled upward slightly by his pointed nose, exposing his upper teeth when he scowls.
What is the meaning of this?
Ethelmira told me you're not supposed to be doing any more experiments. I heard you were demoted. How'd that happen? That's none of your concern. Did one of the others put you up to this? Ardmer, that smug weasel? Things went wrong. Everything. I don't know how. I'll never know. I'd like to access the North Ward. Out of the question. Those patients are in isolation for a reason. Your forehead seems damp all of a sudden. Perhaps I should discuss your insubordination with the head warden.
You smug cretin. How dare you come down here and meddle? You have no idea the importance of my research.
He balls up his fist and digs his teeth into his index finger, a growl simmering beneath his breath, and a deep scowl compressing his face.
Fine. Speak to them for all the good it'll do you. I'm sure the discussions will be fascinating.
Ethelmura told me you're not supposed to be doing any more experiments. Yes, well, Ethelmura hasn't done much good for anybody since he had his soul moved into an inanimate object. So I fail to see why I should let that sway me. If Animancers all followed the commands of their leaders, where would we be? We'd all be as backward and willfully ignorant as Red Ceres. We would know nothing about life or death or even ourselves. We would be lost in the dark with no clue as to why. I never thought I'd find myself in agreement with a statue, but Ethelmer's right about this fellow at least. How easily ambition masquerades as prudence. I'll bet he's fooled even himself. Surely there are other paths that don't involve risking lives.
Indeed. Many lives have been spent in such pursuits, writing treatises and poems. But tell me this, how does one verify the truth of a poem? If some philosopher stumbled across the meaning of our existence, how would we know it from a false one? These are wasted lives. In Animancy there is progress. We are measurably closer to complete understanding because of our work. And that will be true until our work is complete. Who will solve Widewen's legacy? Some church? Some warrior? It will be an Animancer, or it will be no one at all.
Well, have you tried your experiments on any other subjects? I have. Yes, no point in lying about it now that Ethelmere is involved. I asked for volunteers from our patients, and a few brave souls came forward. I was very close at one time to a breakthrough. They understood that. They understood their sacrifices would mean something. I get the distinct impression that there's something going on in the North Ward that he doesn't want me to know about. But when you have a perception as high as mine, it's easy to pull rank. Is this the North Ward? Okay, Wixton cells back there, right? And I mean, like, makes sense that they would be dangerous. Is this my face? Tell me. This is not my face. Thundering sky, rain of blood, innocence must drown. Graham. This man has the look in his eyes of a haunted animal, and at your approach, he staggers back to the far corner of his cell, halfway appearing as though he would climb the walls if it would get him farther away from you. He cries out, a bizarre primal utterance like nothing you've ever heard. I need to ask you some questions. Graham looks at you blankly. It's unclear whether he understands you or not, but his panic has momentarily subsided. He opens his mouth to speak, but the words that come out are half-formed, as though his tongue were cut out. They're impossible for you to discern, if indeed they are words at all. The mutilations of Animancy, crueler than any torture, to disfigure the soul. Let us return to the favor of the Animancers of this shit heap. You're afraid. Do certain visitors make you afraid? He looks at you with uncertainty. Slowly, tentatively, he steps closer to the front of his cell, and as he does so, for the first time you can perceive his soul within your ken. It's misshapen, as though maimed by some jagged instrument, and large expanses of it have been gouged out entirely. You feel no barriers of resistance. If you wanted to, you could look further. Peer into his soul. You're in your cell. A key turns. The door creaks open on neglected hinges. Thoughts come to you in waves, incomplete, broken, fearful. Standing at the door is a rotund, balding man. His upper teeth and pointy nose remind you of a rat. He beckons. I was about to say, kind of rat-like, got that rat look, got that Groundhog Day look. You don't want to go. Anything else, in your mind, is a single word, and the word is no, but it dissolves before it reaches your lips. You press against the back wall, cornered. You cry out. In darkness, you fight against unseen restraints. You cannot move your arms or legs. The man walks into the room carrying a lit candle, its meager flame casting long shadows across books and machinery. Straps bind your arms and legs. Cold metal circumscribes the crown of your head and the breadth of your chest. The man is sorry. He is in need of raw materials. They dismantled his work and he needs another source. He needs to show them he was right. He thanks you. Then he turns a knob and you feel yourself begin to crack from within, and you can feel pieces of you torn away, like having your insides chewed out by a horde of rats, and you're screaming a scream you can barely hear. Another night, heavy footsteps outside your door, coming for you. You look through the slit. The flesh giant, the artificial being just outside, but facing left. Facing the end of the hall, the boy there. The boy looks with interest at the giant, then collapses to the floor like a shed snakeskin. The giant convulses for a moment, then rights itself, turns away, and leaves. Got it. The boy seems to have moved his soul into one of the flesh golems. Uskrim. A willowy adolescent boy stands in the center of his cell, gawkish and stoop-shouldered. He stares straight ahead. The occasional blink his only movement. and it's unclear whether he registers your presence all behind his glassy, doll-like eyes. And we'll figure out what's wrong with him next time on Pillars of Eternity.